You want Philly?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sanders patiently running. Sanders could cut. And another block. Sanders still going inside the 40.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Kelly Green Hour.
You want Philly?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sanders patiently running. Sanders could cut. And another block. Sanders still going inside the 40.
Oh, well. Hello. Technical difficulties, but it is what it is. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kelly Green Hour. I'm your host, LJ Harrell, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, what's going on over there, man? What's up? What's happening up there in Canada?
My internet is an absolute mess right now, so that is why there was no intro music today, because I could not get anything working on this laptop. But man, everything's good up here in Canada, my friend. You know, nice, peaceful, quiet, and it was really quiet. So quiet. We took the weekend off last weekend, and now we're back because, well, of course, the big schedule release happened. So yeah, we definitely have lots to talk about now because apparently we're going 17-0. Is that right, El?
No. No, we're gonna be realistic on this show. Okay, we will be realistic on this show when we go through the schedule. But as always, before we get started, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour, and follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJ Harrell54. Slide into the DMs. Help let us know what you want us to talk about. And Connor, introduce our guests, man. Introduce our guests.
Absolutely. First of all, shout out to the Painted Lines, of course, who are we are proud members of that channel, that network, and everything that they are offering. If you go to thepaintedlines.com and check it out, it's not just Philadelphia sports. It is a plethora of different things, and very exciting to be a part of them and the movement that they have going on. And one of the leaders of that movement is joining us tonight, and that is Chris at Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Chris, welcome aboard to the Kelly Green Hour for the first time of hopefully very many.
Yeah, man. Anytime you guys want to talk shop, let's freaking go. I'm down. You know that. But a lot of reasons to be excited about with Eagles season here, getting ready for training camp and the schedule release. But guys, thanks for joining TPL, man. It's an honor. It's an honor to get to know you, Connor. Honor to get to know you, LJ, man. I'm excited. I'm excited, man. There's a lot of reasons to be excited. Let's go.
The excitement coming from you. Like, we're all in different places, and you can feel the excitement. And obviously, we're going to be talking about the 17. Already, we got somebody saying 17-0. Let's be realistic, Chris. Let's be realistic. No, but
yeah, a little bit about me. I am very objective. I will not be going there at all. So.
I joke about. I won't lie. I joke about it, but I know it's never ever in a million years. It's never going to happen for the Eagles. They're never going to go 17-0. They lose a game they shouldn't lose. Like, when we jump into the schedule, I'm sure we'll have a couple of games where we're like, they should win this, but let's be real. It's the Eagles. They'll end up losing it. But before we get into the schedule, it's been a couple of weeks since Connor and I have been on, since the draft recap show, and a couple of things have happened for the Philadelphia Eagles. They had a rookie training camp. Nakobe Dean is practicing. He's gonna, as of right now, he's a full go to go, and that is a huge thing. Getting Nakobe Dean in the third round, if he is able to play, that is the steal of the draft. I don't care what anybody says. There were some picks that could, that other teams had that everybody proclaims to be the steal of the draft. But I want to start with Nakobe Dean, because that guy was the leader of the best defense in college football history, if not the best defense, definitely one of the best defenses. And he's going to be roaming the middle of our defense. We haven't had a linebacker like Nakobe Dean since, Jeremiah Trotter was probably the last drafted linebacker we had. D'Amico Ryans was probably the best, linebacker, or the last linebacker we had with the instincts that Nakobe Dean has. Chris, what are your thoughts? Like, getting this guy in the third round and him just being able to lead, take control of the Eagles defense for Jonathan Gannon, however long Gannon's going to be here.
It was an A+. It was an A+ draft pick. It was something that, if you would have told me like we were taking in the first round, I would have been even happier about. Like, I can't believe they were able to get that level of talent in the third round. And for me, when you go to Nakobe Dean, it goes straight to Jonathan Gannon, and what this defense is going to look like with other additions that we'll be talking about here with Hassan Reddick. And, we were kind of promised we would see a lot of delays and stunts and a lot of pre-snap movement on this defensive line. We didn't really see much of that last year. I think now with Hassan Reddick, they did not have the personnel. That is 100% fact. But you look at the Eagles front seven, at least, with what Jordan Davis gives and what he means for what these edge rushers are going to be able to do to get to the quarterback. That was a major weakness last year, getting to the quarterback. Hassan Reddick, Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean had 31 pressures last year. I think I put a stat out like Alex Singleton, TJ Edwards. Like those guys were like 5 or less the entire season of 2021. So Nakobe Dean, Hassan Reddick, you're finally going to be able to get some sort of impact from that position, which basically has given you nothing over the last several years.
So the one thing that made me, I don't want to say made me mad, but when Jonathan Gannon would get interviewed last year, and the questions were, what type of defense are you? And he said, we don't really, or what type of scheme do you run? And he said, we don't really have a scheme. And I think that had to do because they didn't have the personnel. This year, you signed Kaiser White, you signed Hassan Reddick, you draft Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis. I think the front four we know is what usually leads the Eagles defense. Now they were 29th or 30th or 31st, whatever it was, in sacks last year. That just doesn't happen. But Connor, I think now we're seeing it. This is going to be a 3-4. They're going to play hybrid, but I think we're going to see a lot of 3-4. You don't draft a Jordan Davis who is going to be right over the center, take up the guards in the center, so that your linebackers can run all over the place. You don't do that if you're not going to play a lot of 3-4. And I think that's what we're going to see. I'm not a big fan of the 3-4. When Chip came and did it, I was not happy. And I know Brandon Graham is, he wasn't really happy with it. But obviously, this late into his career, he's just going to play. And I think getting a healthy Brandon Graham back is going to help the defensive line, especially against the run. But Connor, what do you think about the scheme in which the Eagles defense is probably, most likely going to play this year? I'm thinking 3-4 hybrid. We're going to see a lot of that, drafting Kyron Johnson. He's going to be under the wing of Hassan Reddick. That's going to be Hassan Reddick in 4 or 5, in maybe 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. I mean, you look at the way they drafted defensive tackle this year. It's so different from what they did in prior seasons. You got Jordan Davis, and as I kind of alluded to this in my first article for the Painted Lines as well, because they got Noah Ellis, who is another massive human being as an undrafted free agent. You don't just go after these guys who are like Ellis was up around 360 pounds at some points. And then you got Jordan Davis, who was around 330, 340 pounds. Like, these guys are massive human beings. These are not 4-3 defensive tackles. I know that we got Javon Hargrave, and he came from a 3-4 scheme in Pittsburgh, but Javon Hargrave is a different type of 3-4 defensive tackle. He was more of like an edge on that 3-4 front. This is completely different, and you can tell that shift is happening because Milton Williams is not an edge, but he can be, an outside on the 3-4. Same with Josh Sweat. He is an edge. He can probably work the edge with Milton Williams, and then you have Jordan Davis, and they're eating up 2 or 3 bodies at a time. Like, the approach is there that they're going to give more hybrid looks, probably some more nickel looks, some 3-4. You can tell that he wants to get really creative with this defense, something he couldn't do last year. And the pieces are there. You got your lockdown CB1. Hopefully, we're going to talk about it later, maybe a CB2, an adequate CB2. The safeties aren't bad. They're okay. The linebackers are much improved. And you have the players in place, especially at the linebacker position, to be leaning 3-4 with Hassan Reddick, with Nakobe Dean, with Davion Taylor, with all of TJ Edwards. They all offer very different things to this game and very different things to whatever Jonathan Gannon's plan is going to be. But I think what is happening to the front four, you can definitely tell that they're leaning towards a 3-4 look.
So I'm glad you brought up, the secondary, because that's the issue I have right now, and I think we all have. We know we have Darius Slay. We're solidified there. I know he's got, what is he, 30, 31 now? Or will be 31, something like that. He's not getting, as good as he was last year, he's not getting any younger. And it was awful last year when in the first half of the season, Gannon had our safeties playing 50 yards back because he didn't want to get beat over the top. They need a CB2. Now, the one thing I'm going to hold serve on for Howie with this is they didn't sign Steven Nelson until training camp last year. So we might have to wait. They didn't trade for Ronald Darby until training camp in 2017 or whatever it was when they won the Super Bowl. So it's probably going to take time. Now, the big name out there right now is James Bradberry. Everybody, the Giants released him. He would be an awesome pickup for the Eagles. He's 29. He was an All-Pro in Carolina before going to the Giants. I don't know if the Giants had the right scheme for Bradberry, and that's why he struggled last year. But I think, if you can get him to come, it would be a huge, massive pickup because we already know we have Slay on one side. We need CB2. Avonte Maddox in the slot. You have a bunch of, Zach McPherson, who they drafted last year. Then Tay Gowan, who they got in the trade with Arizona. Was it Kerry Vincent? Mac McClain. Like, they have so many young guys that they traded just late round draft picks for last year to bring in to see maybe they can build, maybe they can, progress, become depth players for them this year. Now, I don't think personally, and I'm gonna go before I ask you guys, I don't know if James Bradberry is going to come to the Eagles. I think he's going to go somewhere that's going to pay more. I think the Eagles might sign like a Kevin King. Kevin King can play. He has played. Now, I know he struggled the last couple years. In the NFC Championship game against Tampa 2 years ago, was not a shining moment for him. But he also has that ability that he can play safety. So say this year you sign him to say a 2-year deal. He plays corner this year. Next year, if you don't have to trade both of your first-round picks for a quarterback, you could potentially draft a corner next year, move King to safety, and then you have somebody that has the ability that's been in this defense for a year, will know what he's supposed to do. So as much and James Bradberry is number one on my list, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to go Kevin King. Chris, what do you think of the James Bradberry situation? And if it's not Bradberry, who do you think the Eagles are going to bring in to be CB2?
I love everything you just said, obviously. Like, really what it comes down to is bringing in someone because you look at that gap. You look at that lack of talent at the safety position. That's a major concern. The whole secondary outside of Darius Slay. James Bradberry, obviously, is a complete no-brainer. He's this long, tall cornerback. We know the Eagles covet Jonathan Gannon covets at that position. I think 3 years, like $30 million, lock him in, and let's freaking go, man. Having a guy like Bradberry lined up across from Darius Slay, like for the foreseeable future, would be just such a huge upgrade from where they're at.
And not to cut you off, like which we'll get into. You look at the schedule; they're going up against some. I mean, I don't know if Jameson Williams will be healthy, but Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown week 1, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen week 2. Like, they're going to be going up again. You need a legit CB2,
and you need depth. You need depth too, let alone. But I think what you like about Darius Slay and James Bradberry, both can thrive playing press, playing on the line. And then, like I just said, like you already have Avonte Maddox in the slot locking it down. I think that is just a no-brainer. It should be done already. I agree. It's probably not going to happen because this is Philadelphia and this is what we have to deal with. But the hope is that like this Eagles secondary is not like Nate Gary level bad, where the NFL is a mismatched league. Good quarterbacks will expose some of these weaknesses here in this Eagles backfield. And that's kind of the fear, especially with the weaknesses on the line of scrimmage the Eagles had on the defensive line. It wasn't good enough. And I definitely have that fear in the back of my head that, wow, if this Eagles defensive line doesn't get home as much as we hope it will be, if Brandon Graham doesn't bounce back after that injury as much as we hope he does, as Jordan Davis doesn't have growing pains in year 1, like there's some concerns here. But for me, James Bradberry, lock it down. Eagles fans would be psyched.
Now, if it isn't Bradberry, who do you think it is?
I don't know. I can't address that. I live in a weird bubble with my Philly sports. I like the Kevin King suggestion. I like that idea of bringing in some
Xavier
sort of
Rhodes, maybe?
hybrid. Yeah, some sort of hybrid that can play nickel, can play safety, can play outside corner, has good size. Kevin King, I think from Washington, right?
Yeah, college at Washington.
Yeah, so yeah,
With
sure.
Sidney
But
Jones.
they got to bring in guys because, like you said, the NFC East, the NFC has some good wide receivers that are going to test this Eagles backfield 100%. So,
and you're right. If the Eagles can't get pressure on the quarterback, if they're using Hassan Reddick as a coverage linebacker and not a rushing linebacker like he is, that's malpractice to what Jonathan Gannon's doing, and B, that's not going to help your secondary, especially the safeties, which I have zero faith in Marcus Epps as a starting safety. He's a good third safety, but I have no faith in him. Connor, what are your thoughts on Bradberry? And do you have if it's not Bradberry, who do you think the Eagles bring in to be CB2?
Yeah, I mean, I want to first kind of address, like, there's a lot of upset fans about why didn't need to address cornerback at all in the draft and stuff. And I want to point out the fact that he traded a bunch of these late round picks for these cornerbacks told you day 3 for cornerbacks was not going to be the direction that Howie looked. That gave it away to me that day 3 was going to be an absolute no-go at cornerback. No cornerback at all would be drafted by Howie that day based on the moves he made in season. And then you look at day 1 and day 2. Day 1, the guys you wanted were gone, except for Andrew Booth, who continued to slide throughout the day. Imagine if we had have taken Booth at pick 13, where we took Jordan Davis, and really, hindsight being 2020, there was a slide of him into the 40s. Imagine the fan base just tearing into Howie. Everyone had this high second-round grade. Why are we taking him in the first round? I loved Andrew Booth. I personally like Andrew Booth over Derek Stingley. Why the Andrew Booth slide happened, I'm not 100% certain. But at the end of the day, it felt like a reach in the round 2 and round 3 to go for the cornerbacks. When we came up, I looked at the board and I was like, there's just no cornerbacks I'd take. He had to trade up if he wanted to make the move. So to me, it's like, if he had have made the move to address cornerback in draft on day 2, everyone would have crowned it like Zach McPherson. Who's Zach McPherson? Why are we making this move? Why are we doing this reach? And I understand Cam Jurgens, whatever. You say what you want. Maybe he is a reach. But at the end of the day, it's not all about addressing that year. We have to address life after Jason Kelce. We should have addressed life after Jason Kelce multiple times by now. But we haven't, and he's come back. Thank goodness he has. But Cam Jurgens was literally... He has his own beef jerky line, and he literally practices against cows. There's a video out there of him standing in front of a cow and hustling him back into his pen. Like,
at least he's not a firefighter.
This guy's gonna be good.
Grant Caltera was our tight end from the system. I'm just saying.
It was like, at the end of the day, and then the Nakobe Dean pick in the 3rd round, like, you can't go wrong with the Nakobe Dean pick. Their cornerback never made sense. James Bradberry 100% makes sense. Per spot track, his value's at $12 million. He's probably not getting $12 million. Let's face it. He had the down year in New York. Call it scheme, call it whatever you want. He's not going to get $12 million. But there are teams out there who will probably pay him that $8 to $10 million range. Give him a couple seasons, 2-3 seasons, and 100% how we should be there. I understand we only have about $9.5 million in cap right now, but we know how you work that magic. Load it into...
I feel about the salary cap.
Exactly. You think it doesn't even exist. Load that into year 2. Load it into year 3. Whatever it is, what it is. Don't give him 3 years with, like, these 5 years and all this, dead money accelerates into the final year or whatever. Don't give us that garbage. Give him 3 years straight up. Work your magic with it within the 3 years with none of these extra years tagged on, and just lock him down. And then that gives you a couple more seasons to address the cornerback position through the draft. If you can't do it next year, you do it the next year. You have a couple years to do it. Or even better, you have a couple more seasons to see what happens with these guys that he is so confident in, that he's raving about. Because in press conferences, he says, I love the secondary. I think we have a good secondary. I'm confident something's going to come of this.
He has to say that, though.
But how many times, LJ, have we talked about quantity over quality? You can have 10 cornerbacks heading into training camp, but if only one of them makes your roster beyond the starting 2 or 3 that you already have, You just have quantity. You don't have quality. It's just a waste. And that just feels like the direction we are definitely trending. There's good news. Like Tay Gowan apparently has put on a lot of muscle, and like he did really well at UCF. I really liked his tape, but can he start to show something at the NFL level? Like we need to start seeing stuff from some of these guys. And it's just the only one who jumps off the page to me as that guy is Tay Gowan and Goodrich, the UDFA from Clemson. Those are the only two who stand. Kerry Vincent's kind of undersized, more of a safety. Tay Gowan to me and Goodrich are the ones who are going to probably have to step up the most and prove valuable and show that take advantage of that opportunity. But
I'm sorry, start Minshew. Wow, we're starting the Minshew train already. But so I also like Josh Jobe. I thought he was all right at Alabama. He wasn't the greatest.
But there's a lot of people saying he should move to safety too.
Which I'd be fine. Look, we need safeties.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Because look, Connor, me and you were really high on Kamon Wallace when we drafted him. He hasn't been it. I don't know what the heck is going on. Hopefully he's able to turn it around. What's this, going into his fourth year now? I think it's third year. So like hopefully he can turn into the guy that was at with Clemson. And I mean at Clemson, when you're playing with that defensive line that they had, Dexter Lawrence, Clinton Farrell and all those guys with Stikowski or whatever the heck his name was at linebacker, like it makes it easy on the back end when you're able to, they could get pressure all day in the ACC when there's like maybe two good teams in the ACC at the time. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens at the cornerback position over the next couple of weeks. It's still early. The Eagles have made signings beginning of the summer, late in the summer, early in training camp, during the preseason that have helped the team. So how he's not done, he just has to figure out a way to figure it all out and bring the team.
Oh, by the way, El, I didn't give you another name. There are so many like 30 to 33-year-old cornerbacks on the market who I would 100% take at the CB2 spot if we swing and miss on Bradberry. Like, I'd be okay with Hayden. I'd be okay with Fuller. I'd be okay with Xavier Rhodes. They're all older guys, whatever. They're not the future of the position, but we're not looking for the future of the position. Look at Steven Nelson. We ended up getting the guy paid, man. The dude got paid, and we have to respect that. None of these guys are going to go out and get paid like Steven Nelson. Steven Nelson needed to prove it. These guys are at the end of their career, and they just need an opportunity to be a CB2, and I would be 100% okay with bringing them in as a CB2 and being realistic that none of these guys are going to work out as a CB2 that are on roster right now. Let's just face it. So as long as the sooner he accepts it.
Yeah, I think Gowan has the highest ceiling potentially, but we'll see. And then look, we know that Tyrann Mathieu went to the Saints. Howie was never going to give Matthew that contract that he got from the Saints.
Right.
And, the Eagles have the Saints first round pick next year. And we all thought potentially like the Saints might not be good, with losing Sean Payton, but if Jameson Winston has talent, he's just a little erratic. And by a little erratic, I think a lot. He's really erratic. I don't know how that offense is going to be without Sean Payton running it. But like they still have Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, Jarvis Landry. If the offensive line can stay, like they're going to score points. They should score points. So maybe us all thinking, and I was one of those people who thought the Saints are going to be bad. We're going to get a top 5 pick from them. It might be like this year. Remember we thought when we had 3 first-round picks going into the season, we're like the Eagles are going to be bad, the Colts are going to be bad, the Dolphins were going to be bad. We'll have 3 top 10 picks. No.
There was a point in the season where we did have that. We had 3 top 12 picks for multiple weeks in season, but
and then so the teams just turned it around. So
I agree with you. I'm not leaning in the direction that the Saints aren't going to do well. I mean, they paid, like you said, they picked up Jarvis Landry, Michael Thomas. If he comes over, that's a good wide receiving core. That's a respectable wide receiving core. The defense is still really good. That defense is better than our defense. Really so, good. Like, you definitely.
Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, now Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus Lattimore, Gardner Johnson. Like, they are Davenport, I think. Is he one of their defensive ends? Like,
yep.
They are really good. So obviously we're going to be looking at the Eagles schedule, but we're going to keep an eye on the Saints because we get their first round pick. So I want to move on a little bit. we've talked about, it's been talked about, the Eagles are a quarterback factory. But they're really turning into a front office factory. They've lost so many guys, and so I shouldn't even say guys, so many people over the last couple of years. Howie has to keep replenishing. I think he deserves credit for that. I don't know if you guys agree with that. We'll start with you, Connor. Like, just the way he's been able to bring in talent for the front office, and now he is starting to listen to that talent. He's not drafting for need anymore. He's drafting best player available. The best player. I don't really care about position. If this guy is going to be able to help our team day one, I want him on the roster. And we've seen that over the last couple of years since, the Jalen Reagor, I think, pick, over Justin Jefferson. Now, they went and they drafted Devontae. They made a move to go up and get Devontae. They've gotten, and then this year, obviously, getting Jordan Davis. He didn't care that you have the two. You're allocating the most money to defensive tackle, the defensive line in the NFL. Who cares? Davis can help us. We're taking him. Connor, what are your thoughts on Howie's ability to build the front office to keep the team viable, when it comes to scouting, when it comes to just bringing in all this talent?
I think it's truly amazing that, first of all, Howie still has a job with some of this talent that cycles through. Like, listen, we are not a Howie loving show. We throw shade where shade is deserves to be thrown. But like, we've lost, like, I think that, what was it, this offseason alone, we lost 3 people. Like, that's crazy. And then now they're going to
Weidel has a chance to go to be the Pittsburgh GM. So
exactly, like, and now we're literally going to turn over pretty much the entire scouting department. They've already started to. They brought in Wells there from Cleveland, who's a very well established guy, and he's going to be the director of player personnel. And they brought in Russell from Denver, who's supposed to step into the more senior role vacated by Donahue and stuff. Like, they're literally, and they're going to take some of these younger guys that they want to keep around, younger men or women, because we also had a woman get promoted this year, and they're going to take them, they're going to move them up into opportunities, they're going to get opportunities, and we're just going to keep losing people, which is okay. I mean, I wish some of them would take the job from Howie. I wish, like, someone would stand out in Jeffrey Lurie's eyes as wow, I need to keep that person around. How can I keep them? How can I move Howie into a different position to keep this person around? Because these people are getting assistant GM jobs. They're getting GM jobs. Look at what Joe Douglas is doing in New York with the Jets. Like, applause to him. He had an incredible draft this season. Despite no free agents really wanting to come to town for him, he had an incredible draft.
It's hard to mess up 2 top 10 picks. Like,
it is.
Same could be said for the Giants.
It is. Yeah,
2 top 10 picks.
True. They didn't mess up the 2 top 10 picks, but things got a little bit more touch and go as the draft went on for them, as always. But like, it's so impressive to see these people develop and move on, and the types of players that you find out later on they were responsible for bringing in, or that they scouted, or that they looked at, or what they said to Howie, or like the types of things, how involved they were in some of the decisions. It's really incredible. And I hope that this retooling is going to continue to keep things trending in the right direction for the Philadelphia Eagles, because we're losing some big names. We're losing some really good people, but he's retooling on the back end and in the front office extremely well.
Chris, what are your thoughts on just the way Howie has been able to play this? I don't want to call it Russian roulette, but that's kind of what he's playing, because you're losing all these people, and you got to be able to bring in quality guys and quality people, I'll say, because some could be women, that could come in and help him, when it comes to building this roster.
I don't have much to add to what Connor just said there, but yeah, that's the take, right? Is, all these guys keep going in and out, and girls keep going in and out of the Eagles front office, yet Howie just sits there. The weasel himself is just
untouchable. Picture somewhere.
That's exactly where I was going. It's like he gets a contract extension. I have liked the last couple of drafts here, no question. Big fan. But the I don't understand what kind of photos he has on Jeffrey Lurie, because he is continuously untouchable for this organization. It makes no sense. I can't believe it. So
And
I can't believe that teams are trying to get people from the Eagles organization. Maybe that screams more that like how inept Howie is, that everyone else is picking up the pieces so much that somehow the Eagles are still kind of progressing forward, and Howie's so inept when it comes as a evaluator of talent. I don't know.
Question for both of you. If Howie were to get fired today, does he get a job in the NFL right away, or does he?
I think so.
I think he 100% gets it. Yes.
GMs are in place except for the Steelers and whatnot. But
I think he gets another job because like the guy's like he won't get another GM job. To me, I'm okay with Howie staying in Philadelphia, but you got to I've said this on shows before, LJ, with you. There's got to be some fancy name role. Toss him 150 grand and say you're not the GM anymore, but here's a fancy director of salary cap, and just say, here you go over here, stay in your lane. We're putting somebody else up here for you. I'm 100% fine with him staying here. And I think another team would 100% take the shot on the guy because the guy is a genius. Not the way you want to see in a GM always.
He's a business genius.
He's a business genius, exactly. Yeah. Not always the way you want to see in football, but he's just so smart with money, with the cap, with how he can swindle. Like if I'm a GM and Howie is one of my senior personnel, I'm bringing him into every damn negotiation for a trade ever, because the guy can negotiate like nobody else. Like the guy has great business acumen. That's why I want him in Philadelphia, but give him a fancy name, give him a raise and say, see you later. There's a new GM coming to town.
There's
to make
also
the final decision.
There's also a reason a lot of GMs don't like to do business with him. He has really won a lot of these trades. The trade he made with Mike Tannenbaum to get rid of the linebacker and the corner but a couple years back, like you were able to get rid of
Kiko Alonso.
Yeah, when we traded Kiko Alonso and the corner
Sam Bradford.
Well, he got a first round pick for Sam Bradford. The corner that we gave big money to from Seattle that was a bust here. I can't.
That was, what was his name?
But
man,
he was able to trade Alonso in that corner and get something in return.
Oh, was it Maxwell?
Yes, Maxwell.
Byron Maxwell.
He was able to trade Maxwell and Alonso, bring them back, bring something back. Oh, Dave, I agree with Connor. Someone should step up and take Howie's job. They should lock Howie. I get to work. Oh, Dave, Dave's one of my buddies, and me and him talk about that all the time. And he's not a fan of Howie, not at all. But so he's able to swindle a lot of teams. Like that trade that he made with Miami, he was able to use that to get Carson Wentz.
You don't even have to look that far back. Look at the trade he made to get AJ Brown.
No, that too, yeah.
We talked about the story leading up there. He was showing up to camp and everything was he's staying around. He's going to be a Titan. We're going to get this contract deal done. And boom, the 18th pick comes. There's a trade. And he acquired him. Literally, you see
before the 18th pick. As soon as we
before the pick.
Davis.
Exactly, before the pick. And you look at some of these other deals, it's 2-3 first round value for some of these wide receivers. And we picked up a guy who you can argue all you want. He's not that much worse than Tyreek Hill. He's not that much lower on the totem pole than Devontae Adams, in my opinion. They're still, all three of them are top 10 wide receivers. And if they're going to go and give up 3 times first round value for these guys, and we can get 1 times first round value in a fourth rounder or third rounder, whatever we gave up, hunt all day, every day. I'm going to take that value on AJ Brown over trading up for Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams and forking over $30 million a year. $25 million a year, still hefty, but we're learning the hard way. If you want a stud wide receiver, you got to start paying up. You can't just draft him and let him move on.
And you can also do that when you're paying a rookie quarterback. You're not paying Jalen Hurts yet.
It's true.
So we'll see what happens in the next couple of years. Are we drafting a quarterback next year and continue to pay the quarterback at a rookie rate? Or is Hurts going to prove that he's the guy and we have to give him a contract? When that happens, that there will be a lot of discussion. I don't know if there's been a quarterback since I know Carson was really the talk of Carson. There were his haters, there were his lovers. I don't know if a quarterback has been so. I'm trying to think of the word. Just since McNabb, I don't know. McNabb was when McNabb was here, obviously, you had the people that didn't like him, but he went to 5 NFC Championship games, best quarterback in team history. I don't care what anybody says. Like, he was divisive, but he won. Hurts is divisive, I think, for a different reason. He's a great leader. Everybody loves him. Mm-hmm. But is he a quarterback? Like, can he lead a franchise? And I think that's what we're waiting for. And since we're talking about leading this franchise, let's jump in to the 2022 Eagles schedule. They're going to have 9 home games, 8 road games. They're going to play the NFC South, the AFC South, or NFC North, and the AFC South. And they get to start in Detroit week 1. And the Eagles kind of got their season turned around last year in Detroit. And when, Sirianni finally listened to the fans and we bullied him into running the football, and they ran the ball for like 1,000 yards that game. But still, I don't know if there's a better way to start the season. Look, Detroit's going to be better this year. They have talent on the offensive side of the ball, but they still have they still have Goff. The defense, they have some guys, but I don't know. Like they drafted Aiden Hutchinson. We'll see. So Detroit, while they're going to be better, I think getting Detroit early is good for the Philadelphia Eagles. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think I go straight to Aiden Hutchinson. That they just brought him on, an absolute stud. You look at the surface of that roster; they're much more composed than last year. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a really solid receiver. The dude, I think, finished with like 6 straight games of 8 receptions and 70+ yards. He's a good receiver. Jared Goff, I think, is kind of in that same boat. Sorry, guys, I'm not high on Jalen Hurts, but he's kind of a game manager. He's serviceable, but that's where Jalen Hurts is at the moment. And they got DJ Chalk Jr., who I thought I really wanted here in Philadelphia. That was like one of my main guys here in free agency.
I mean, if we got Chark, we wouldn't have got Brown. I don't know. I think Brown's better.
I agree. No question. No question about that. But they also got Jameson Williams, and they were among the worst offensive team in the league last year, the Detroit Lions. So there's some improvement going on with Detroit, but I think the Eagles get the win there.
I was shocked that Detroit jumped 20 spots for Jameson Williams. When they traded from 32 to 12, quarterback, right? When that happened, Chris, what were your initial reaction?
Yeah, this was the question. There's a lot of questions in this NFL draft, but one of the biggest questions was the rankings of the wide receivers in this draft, especially in the first round and second round. There was no unanimous number 1 wide receiver. Shout out, I had Drake London number 1. I think he went number 1, and I got a ton of shit for it. But he did go the top.
He reminds me too much of J-Jaw.
I know
he's better because he's a first-round talent, and J-Jaw was a second-round, but still.
I disagree, but that's another podcast.
we'll have that discussion at another time.
So for me, I thought it was a good surprise. You look at the Jameson Williams and Drake London and Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and Christian Watson, who went, I think, 32 to Green Bay. I could be wrong there. But there was a lot of there was not elite talent at wide receiver, but it was a position that had by far one of the deepest of the crops in the draft, no question. And if I like the move. I think Jameson Williams has true number 1 wide receiver.
If Williams didn't get tear his ACL in the national championship game,
they would have won.
They would have won. And B, he's the consensus number 1 receiver, would have been taken top 5, top
Easy.
7.
Absolutely.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He was cooking in that game.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And you think about it, if you go back to the SEC championship game, Mechie got hurt in the SEC championship game, and then it was like, oh well, they lost Mechie, so you can devise your game plan around Williams, and he still cooked them in the SEC championship game. And then getting to the national championship, he still did his thing. Like Williams was my number. That's who I wanted the Eagles to draft. He was my, if the Eagles come out of this draft with one guy, I wanted it to be Williams. So I was really not happy when the Lions jumped up 20 picks. So, Connor, what are your thoughts of the Detroit Lions opening the season with the Eagles?
The Detroit Lions, the one thing I will give the Detroit Lions credit for and Dan Campbell credit for is they play their damn hearts out for that guy. Dan Campbell is a man who was kind of like Doug Peterson when he first came to Philadelphia. He has built a culture, and the people that buy in. The people that don't buy in, well, they're just not around, or they're just not getting playing time. They're not getting on the field. So to me, this comes as one of those games where we could play down to the competition, but they could really play up and play above our level, because yes, they have Jared Goff, and whatever it is, what it is, we don't love him. But if he has to throw the ball a whole lot of times, then there's a really good chance that Goff can succeed against his defense as it stands right now and as it looks right now. I think we should beat Detroit. I think that as at the start of the schedule, I think we should win a good chunk of the games. We should come out with a fairly solid record in the first 8 weeks, right up until the bye week. But for me, Detroit strikes me as one of those games that I get nervous about because of how they play for that coach, because of some of the improvements that they have made. They're taking the steps in the right direction. And Jameson Williams was my wide receiver one. Injury or no injury, this is a torn ACL. People come back from torn ACLs like they come back from a basketball player who, hyperextends a finger and twists his ankle. Exactly. They come back like nothing anymore. If this was a torn Achilles, a whole different story, like David Ajabo and stuff, whole different story. We're having a whole different discussion because it takes away a lot from the acceleration. There's not very much proof out there anymore that the torn ACL really hinders a wide receiver. So he was always my wide receiver one.
Yeah. So looking at the early part of the schedule, there's a lot of storylines. Obviously, Detroit with week 1, Deuce Staley. He's the associate head coach or whatever it is with the Lions. Week 2, the home opener, Monday Night Football against Minnesota. Justin Jefferson against, the Eagles. And if Jalen Reagor's on the roster or not, we'll know. But, the Eagles have 5 primetime games this year, which is the maximum you can get. The NFL is thinking highly of the Eagles. If you look at their schedule, and their primetime games are, besides the Houston Thursday nighter, they're prominent games. Minnesota's potentially could be good. Eagles and Dallas every year, they seem to always play a night primetime game. Eagles in Washington, Carson Wentz coming back to Philly. Eagles in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, just being Aaron Rodgers. You look at just the way the NFL thinks of the Philadelphia Eagles, they're potentially, obviously, we're basing this off of what last year looked like coming into 2022, but the NFL's thinking highly of the Eagles. They think that they have a chance to make a playoff run. They want them in the spotlight. And could you imagine what it would look like if they had a Russell Wilson at quarterback? Then this is with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. Imagine if the Eagles had a Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, and whatnot. So what are your guys' thoughts? What's up with you, Chris, on just the Eagles, the way they're viewed by the National Football League and giving them all these primetime games?
I love it, man. I think what the draft did, what Howie did in the first round, where we are right now as Eagles fans, is put up or shut up time for Jalen Hurts. Everyone in Philadelphia, anyone on the national scene is going to see and appropriately evaluate Jalen Hurts in 2022. That is the biggest storyline for this franchise moving forward, that there are no excuses, just like I think Jonathan Gann has a little more personnel on that other side of the football field. But for me, Jalen Hurts getting it done against good competition. It is a passing league. You have to be able to beat good teams, good defenses with your arm, getting that ball into tight windows, getting the ball downfield, seeing open receivers, going through your progressions, hitting that intermediate area of the field is now all on Jalen Hurts. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, it's a dream. They haven't had this duo of wide receivers in a long, long time. My reaction to this question is yes, let's go. The proof is in the pudding, Jalen Hurts. It's all on you.
I'm glad you brought up the whole you have to beat good teams. Last year, all the good quarterbacks the Eagles played, they got crushed. They got destroyed. This year, you play Aaron Rodgers. Do we consider Matt Ryan an elite quarterback? Do we consider Dak Prescott an elite quarterback?
Very true.
Do we consider Kirk Cousins an elite quarterback?
Dak, you look at Christmas Day, Christmas Eve. You got Dallas on Sunday Night Football. There are games there that Dak kills the Eagles. Absolutely kills the Eagles. As short, quick passes, the Eagles haven't figured that out in a long, long time.
We'll see. Hopefully, you don't have to worry about Amari Cooper, who also killed us a lot.
We'll get there.
So we'll see what CeeDee Lamb is able to do. But so let's up until the bye, so the Eagles' first 6 games: Detroit, Minnesota home opener, at Washington, the Carson Wentz reunion, host in Jacksonville, Doug Peterson comes back to Philly, at Arizona. What was that?
Cannot wait for that. Oh my god.
You're going to see 2 totally different reactions, by the way, from when Carson returns and Doug. Doug is going to get a hero's welcome.
No question.
Now, when Carson comes, personally, I would cheer him. I'm a Carson fan. I think Carson's better than Jalen, but that's a different story for a different day. But the reception he's going to get is not going to be fun.
I hope that.
I hope that Arizona game, DeAndre Hopkins will most likely be suspended unless it gets reduced to 4 games. What one game? We'll get to this, Dave. What one game would you guys choose that you're most interested in seeing as of right now? We'll get to that once we finish this, going through the schedule. I'm with you. I'm cheering for Wentz as well. And then week 6, before the bye, week 7, is the Dallas Cowboys Sunday Night Football. I mentioned it. So many storylines with this schedule that the Philadelphia Eagles have. Connor, looking at those first 6 games, just kind of what are your thoughts on that? On the games, Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson, Dallas. Just what are your thoughts on it?
I think we should come out 4-2. I think that's kind of how I see the season start. And, I think you can beat the Lions. I think you can beat the Vikings. You should be able to beat the Commanders. I mean, despite, I will cheer for Wentz as well. I think that he deserves to be cheered for. I think he deserves to have some sort of respect shown to him. I mean, I understand what he's gone through. I understand the stories behind the scenes now from 2 different teams about he doesn't face competition well, adversity well. I get it. It is what it is. But we do have to remember, going back to that year that we won the Super Bowl, we don't win that Super Bowl riding Nick Foles an entire season plus the playoffs.
How many times has Nick Foles started a full season?
Never. Exactly.
And the Eagles were 11-2 when Carson went out. The Eagles would have never been 11-2 with Nick Foles.
Exactly. And that's my point. Like, you have to remember, like, I understand the end was a rocky road. Honestly, if you don't want to cheer, you're better off to be silent. Like, to me, that's how it's got to be. You're either cheer or you be silent. This isn't a guy who left on a completely horrible, like, Doug Peterson went out the same way. If you're going to boo Carson Wentz, you got to boo Doug Peterson, because Doug Peterson went out the same way. He led the team to the Super Bowl the same way that Carson Wentz was literally responsible for leading us to the playoffs, and then Nick Foles finishing it off from there. Like, you can't, they're very similar situations for both of those guys and how they left and the way that things ended up going down behind the scenes. So, I mean, it is what it is to me. Those games are the big games. I 100% agree with you there. But it's important that we come out on a positive note, because the schedule definitely gets a little bit harder after those first 6 games. After the bye week, it gets tougher. Come out on top. Come out 500. It's better than 500.
It's the total opposite of last year's schedule. Last year's schedule was so hard the first half, and the Eagles got fortunate to have the division games, have the Jets. Like, they had the weak schedule to the end. That's what helped them, and also expanding the playoffs helped the Eagles get to make a run to be the 7th team to be that last wild card. But what are your thoughts, Chris? That early season slate right before the bye, like, the Eagles have a chance to potentially be 4-2, like Connor said, 5-1. If you can beat Dallas finally, maybe 6-0. I don't expect that, but they have a chance to really set themselves up going into that second half of the year. You need to stack wins before the schedule gets really hard.
It's so interesting. That's such a loaded question, right? Like, what does this offense look like? What does the offense look like with Jalen Hurts year 2 as the Eagles quarterback? Are they going to be the number 1 rushing attack in the NFL from the jump? Or are they going to give Jalen Hurts more freedom, more dropbacks to kind of utilize his arm with A.J. Brown, with Devontae Smith in his second year? It's such a tough question. I look at Arizona. They were really, really good last year. Kyler Murray is a guy not unlike Jalen Hurts, obviously way more talented quarterback than Jalen Hurts. But, talking about improvement, incremental improvement, a guy that kind of, went from here to there. We're kind of in that same boat with Jalen Hurts. We're waiting for him to, as a passer, to go from here to there. So that Week 5 matchup, and plus you have Zach Ertz coming back to playing against the Eagles. It's in Arizona, but we all know that there's probably going to be a lot of Eagles fans.
There's Eagles fans at every game.
Oh yeah, Arizona. There's going to be so many Eagles fans at that game, and for me, like, it's the Eagles' offense. I want to see Jalen Hurts take that next step as a quality quarterback in the pocket. I want to see him go up against another elite offense like the Arizona Cardinals, who potentially, if they're all healthy and everyone's on the field, they're a top 10 offense in the NFL. I want Jalen Hurts to prove that he and his arm strength, his accuracy, he can belong, not so much with Kyler Murray in that same conversation, because I don't have those expectations. That's another podcast. But he can stick. He can stick and make the right throws at the right times. He can see the field, get the ball out, and find that open receiver when it matters. But I look at that Week 5 game.
Yeah, so
I agree with you, Chris. I just want to give my thoughts on Jalen Hurts really quick. You can be both. You can be the number one rushing attack and still give Jalen Hurts every opportunity to throw that football and prove himself. I think he just needs to, like you said, show those incremental improvements when he's asked to throw the football, be effective when throwing the football. But I think there is a world where both things can exist, that Jalen Hurts makes his incremental improvements, and we can continue to be the number one rushing attack, because they're kind of built in a way where that rushing attack can remain. And, you brought Kennedy Brooks in basically for the Jordan Howard role. Like, you can see they're built in that way where they're going to have everyone plus, Boston Scott on the outside, because for some reason he's like Howie. He always makes the team. He's always around. But like you're built in a way where you're going to run the same way you were running last year. You just know it. You just see it. You can feel it by the way they set it up. And then, but you can also see that improvement in Jalen Hurts. To me, Jalen Hurts just needs to make the throws when he's asked to throw the football. And that's the issue that I have. Last year, if he had have been able to hit some of the throws that needed to be made, this is such a different discussion this year than what we're having right now in this offseason and the way that people are actually thinking about Jalen Hurts.
This is like the Ben Simmons conversation, right? Like, we're sorry to like kind of like to completely go like, if you want Ben Simmons to start becoming a jump shooter or a 3-point shooter, he's not going to go from this year to that year and become this amazing 3-point shooter. Like, let's start getting him at the rim. For Jalen Hurts, let's start exposing this intermediate area of the field. So it's baby steps, increments. I want to see A.J. Brown, one of the best at getting into that intermediate area of the field. Let's see Dallas Goedert, more attempts going into that intermediate area of the field. I'm not expecting Jalen Hurts to light it up downfield, like 30, 40-yard bombs down the field. I want to see Jalen Hurts take that next step as a quarterback, hitting guys in stride, finding those windows, finding those pockets to A.J. Brown, to Dallas Goedert, to Devontae Smith in that intermediate area of the field. That's where Jalen Hurts has truly lacked as a quarterback.
So I think the biggest difference between Jalen Hurts and Ben Simmons is Jalen Hurts is actually working on it.
That's a good point.
I completely agree.
And I'm not a Sixers fan, and I'm like not a Ben Simmons fan, but like I don't know if anybody could disagree with that statement right there. Ben Simmons thought, I made the All-Star team. I don't have to change my game. Jalen Hurts was a Pro Bowl alternate, which I still disagree with. Shouldn't have been, but he's working with Tom Hounds. Thanks, Dave. I love that LJ cringes every time he hears Boston Scott's name. He shouldn't be on the team. I'm going to say that. I don't like Boston Scott.
I said it in my article. If you're going to go forward with carrying 3 running backs and Boston Scott makes his team over Kennedy Brooks, Boston Scott has something on Howie's. He has somebody on something on somebody. He has to, because there's no reason he'd be on that team except for playing the New York Giants or the New York Jets.
So I do want to get towards the back half of the schedule, but like, what the heck was I saying? No, but we'll see how it goes. But like, at least Jalen Hurts is working to get better, working with Tom House, working with a bunch of different coaches to improve his game. All right, so we're gonna go back. We're gonna get back to the schedule after the bye. They're at home against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has never beaten the Eagles in Philadelphia, ever. I don't know. And look, Pittsburgh is great. I love Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin might be my favorite head coach in the NFL. If there's one coach in the NFL I could play for, it would be Mike Tomlin. I don't like Kenny Pickett, who I think will be the starting quarterback, at least by this time if he doesn't start. I don't know how I don't see the obviously injuries and thing like, but as of right now, I don't know if the Eagles will lose. Then they go to Houston, and then they have the reunion with Carson Wentz on November 14th, Monday Night Football. They get that mini break too because they have the Houston games a Thursday night, and then they face Washington. The Commanders, still going to be weird to say, the next week on Monday Night Football. That game against Washington, if Carson is still playing, which as much as I love Carson, it's a question you have to ask. Will he be playing? What are your guys' expectations in that game of Carson coming back to Philly? We'll start with you, Connor.
It definitely is a question to ask, especially when they took Sam Howell, who is compared by many to Taylor Heineke. Like that, to me, that's
it reminds me of Baker Mayfield too much.
Sam Howell, but competition, the fact that they brought competition in, if they don't draft a quarterback, 100% Carson Wentz is starting that week. No problem. He's feeling great. He's feeling the Commander love. But now you're sitting there and you're like, well, maybe we don't get that reunion with Carson Wentz. But the back half of the schedule, it's kind of like it starts out kind of friendly-ish. Like it's kind of weird how they laid that schedule out going from, Sunday to Thursday to Monday, and then back to Sunday. But the back half of the schedule is definitely where there needs to be, that's where I want to see the biggest improvements for Jalen Hurts. I think we can see the same Jalen Hurts with very minor incremental improvements in the first 6 games. And we'd be like, okay, that's good. Like we got the wins. We got through the first 6 weeks. We're above 500 or whatever, wherever we're hopefully at. But in the back half, facing that Colts defense, facing that Packers defense, facing that Titans defense, which has been notoriously pretty good despite not having the most infamous names and the greatest names on defense. They're always really strong. That Saints defense, this is where we really need to see Jalen Hurts make those improvements. We don't want the incremental improvement wouldn't be to get to the first round and get our asses handed to us again, like we did against Tampa Bay last season. What we really need to see is those incremental improvements really start to trend in an even more positive direction. And he beat some of these really good defensive teams. And we really just need to see we need to win the games that we're supposed to win and sneak out some of those games. Like last year, there were some games where we should have won and we ended up losing by 1 score and they were heartbreakers. And we were probably would have been set up a little bit better if it wasn't for that. But we need to win a lot more games. We need to finish better. And I want to say at the end of the day, it's kind of a preface to what my prediction will be, but I feel like we're going to be 10-7, but we really need to be 11-6 to safely win the NFC East. We really need to. I understand that the Dallas Cowboys are the Dallas Cowboys. They didn't get better. It's in the national media, the grades are there that, they didn't get that much better. They didn't get a whole lot better. But at the end of the day, they're probably still going to be 9-8, 10-7. So you want to be that team that's 11-6, not 14-3.
Like some people are thinking. Head coach, who they want to get rid of, pretty much. They're hoping to get Sean Payton next year. I want to go to the next group 3 of next 3 games at Indianapolis, hosting Green Bay, hosting Tennessee, and as Connor said, Chris, 3 really good defenses, and this is where we're going to want to see Jalen Hurts really come out and prove that he's a franchise quarterback. What are your thoughts on that group of games right there? Colts, Packers, and Titans. You're muted.
Sorry, I'm eating my dinner right now. So the Colts, obviously, you start with the Colts defensive line. It's a really strong group. Kwity Paye is a really good player, up-and-coming player. They also got Yannick Ngakoue. I think he's only 27 years old. So, there's talent.
I wanted the Eagles to get him back when he was in
I know, right? I know, right, man? But, yeah, DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, solid. That's a very strong defensive line.
Best linebacker in football, and Darius Leonard.
You nailed it, Connor. There's definitely defensive teams here that are going to put Jalen Hurts to the test. Green Bay has an underrated defense, no question about it, beyond Aaron Rodgers. And who was the other team? Tennessee Titans. Their defensive line, they were top.
They had 9 sacks in their playoff game that they lost.
Their defensive line is among the tops in the NFL. So it's all there. And that's why this is a good conversation. This is a happy conversation as an Eagles fan. As much as I want to see Jalen Hurts take those next steps, it's all there. It's all there. That's right when typically the Eagles are getting it going, especially on the ground and clicking that we've seen in the past. The good news is the Eagles have a history of taking care of the mediocre teams. Jalen Hurts has to get it done against these teams, and it's going to be a ton of fun to watch, man. It's
the one thing I wanted to comment on, and you guys both have said how the Eagles are going to want to get the running game going. I think that's kind of opposite of what Jeffrey Lurie wants. This is why they got Devontae Smith last year, why they traded for A.J. Brown. They got Zach Pascal. I don't know if that means much, but they're going to want to throw the football. Running the football is all fine and dandy, but you cannot win a championship being a running football team. So 100%. It is going to be totally, obviously, because he's the quarterback, totally up to Jalen Hurts to get the passing game going. So let's go to this next.
Can I ask you a question? What do you think the Eagles are going to do here? If Jalen Hurts is struggling week 3 or 4, getting the ball downfield with accuracy issues, do you think the Eagles will switch it up and be a run-heavy team with attempts down for Jalen Hurts? And are you happy with that?
I'm happy with wins. I'm happy with wins. So
are you? Because that's a big storyline.
I agree with you. If he's struggling early on, they're going to probably revert back to being a run-first team, go play action, try to get them in rhythm. The thing is Gardner Minshew going to still be on the team? Because the love that the Philadelphia fans have for backup quarterbacks. And Gardner Minshew had a good game against the Jets. I was actually at that game last year. Not so good game at the end of the year with Dallas, but he was also playing with a bunch of third stringers and practice squad players. So I can't really, say anything bad about that. But if he's not able to throw the ball down the field, and I'm not saying that Gardner Minshew has a strong arm like that as well, there's going to be talk. And then obviously with Carson Strong on the roster, we know the type of arm he has, even though he has no knees. He's an undrafted player, but we're going to see him in preseason. The 3 preseason games, you're going to see a lot of Carson Strong. And if he's slinging the ball, even if it's against backups, people are going to talk. So it will be interesting. They have to be a throwing football team to win a championship, though.
Agreed.
I think that's what it comes down to.
And I do want to point out, in my piece for the Painted Lines, where I talk about the 4 UDFAs who are going to be on the team next year, Carson Strong is one of them, because you see, there's still teams looking for backups. There's still teams looking for veteran quarterbacks. If Carson Strong is anything of intrinsic value as a backup quarterback, you trade Minshew and you get profit off of what you traded.
They didn't trade him during the draft, honestly.
I think they're still waiting on it because, look at how the landscape's unfolding right now. There's a real opportunity that a team like Seattle could be open to the idea of Minshew. I know that right now they're looking at Jimmy Garoppolo and Baker Mayfield very closely. There's no reason to believe that if they're asking seconds for them and we come in with Minshew and say, we'll take a third, we'll take a fourth, there's no reason to say we wouldn't do that if Carson Strong proves any type of value as a backup quarterback. And I think the amount of guaranteed money that they put on Carson Strong, he is going to be the backup quarterback next season. Without barring any major injury, he's going to make that roster, and they're going to move Gardner Minshew.
The Carson Strong addition is the most fascinating addition to this roster. He's basically the bizarro Jalen Hurts. You look at what Jalen Hurts struggles with. Jalen Hurts struggles with anything intermediate and beyond. Carson Strong is amazing at hitting guys in stride, getting guys in those tight pockets in the intermediate area of the field and downfield. The dude had more passes of 40 or 50 yards more than any quarterback in the college football last year.
And he has zero mobility. He's
zero. My point is that Eagles fans are going to be sitting there maybe during training camp or watching this guy just throw bombs to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and look at it, Jalen Hurts, and be like, and they're going to overreact. And it's going to be, I think, for that
Let's
purpose.
be real. We're Philadelphia. We're a fan base that doesn't overreact.
No.
We don't overreact over anything. It'll be good. It'll be fine. Training camp will be normal. Like I usually go when they hold the open practices at the link. I usually go, and I'm definitely going to have to go this year because I want to see that. I want to see these bombs. I want to see AJ Brown. So we'll see. Let's go to the next 3 games. A 3-game road stretch where you play 3 games in a row. Unlike last year, after week 12, the Eagles didn't get on a plane. After they went to Denver and they came home, they didn't get on a plane. It was to Washington where you take a train. It was to Jersey where you take the train to take a train. That was twice. Like it's different this year. You're going to Jersey against the Giants, so that's a train. You're flying to Chicago, and who knows what type of team Chicago is going to be with Justin Fields and Matt Eberflus, that new coaching staff. And then Christmas Eve night, you're going to Dallas, and as Chris, as you said, for some reason we just can't beat Dallas right now. And Dak kills us. This 3-game road stretch right here is going to be massive for the Eagles. They have to find a way to go 2-1 at the very least.
I'm low-key excited for Justin Fields versus Jalen Hurts. I think that's as someone who I like my bread and butter is player development. That's like I don't watch the NFL. I don't watch the NBA. I watch college football. I watch college basketball. I love the NBA and NFL drafts. That's my thing. So I was a big fan of Justin Fields in the draft a couple years ago. You weren't? No. Okay. And I'm excited to see what he looks like in year 2 because Jalen Hurts kind of struggles at the same time.
I do want to say one thing about Justin Fields. I think the Bears did a disservice hiring a defensive coach because if you hire a defensive coach, the defensive coach is going to have to hire an offensive coordinator, and that offensive coordinator is going to run the offense. What happens to that offensive coordinator if he's any good? He gets a head coaching job. I think if the Bears were smart, and obviously who knows what the coaches that were out there, they would have they would have hired an offensive coach so that he stays there with Justin Fields. Justin Fields is probably going to have to go through again. If whoever the offensive coordinator is, I don't know off the top of my head for Chicago, whoever he is, if he's any good, he'll be a head coach in a year or 2. And what's going to happen to Justin Fields? He's going to have to learn a totally new offense.
And they didn't really do much to help Justin Fields this offseason at all in Chicago. But yeah, obviously the Christmas Eve game, I think we're still there, right? The Christmas Eve game. Jalen Hurts has never beaten the Dallas Cowboys, right? Like I think he's 0-2 in 2 starts. You look at the Eagles 0-3 over the last 3 games. Like that's it.
And they were not particularly close games either.
Yeah, like that's the game. And why I'm so excited is like that's for me personally, like everyone has family issues. I don't really see my family that much, but when I do, we go all
Dallas
out.
Fans in my family.
We're gonna be drinking. We're gonna be having so much fun. That Christmas Eve game is Christmas Eve in general is like the biggest drinking night of the year for my family and extended family. We're gonna be all together watching that game. Dak versus Jalen. It's gonna be so fun. That's like if you had to make a short list of like top must see games for the Eagles this year, that's it, right?
Eagles Dallas is always must see, and then the Eagles will finish off the year 2 home games, which would be nice against the Saints. And again, we're going to be looking at the Saints because we have their 1st round pick, and we finished with the Giants. We went 1-1 against the Giants the last couple of years. Jalen Hurts had a really bad game the first time against the Giants last year. Before that, the second game in Philly where he turned it around a little bit. And this is where if the Eagles were to sign James Bradberry, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder against, 2 of your last 5 games are against his old team, the Giants. And that's another reason why if you can get him, it potentially can help. But it's just going to come down to these last 2 games. They've had a really good – when they don't go to New Orleans, the Eagles are really good against the Saints. Because that dome is ridiculous. If you
I've been there.
Have you? I have.
Oh, man.
In 2018, that for the regular season game when they lost like 40-8 or whatever it was, they got demolished. It wasn't pretty. And then they went back into the playoffs. And there's still the talk if Alshon catches it, they go to the NFC Championship game, which I'm not 100% sure it would happen. But at least they get the Saints at home. And it could be Jameson. It could be Jameson. I don't know. I can say Jameis Winston. I don't even know who their backup is because I think Hill is now a tight end exclusively for them. But we've talked about the Saints. They have a good defense. Their offense, they have weapons. It could be a really big game, on New Year's Day in Philadelphia. Connor?
Yeah, I agree. Like, there definitely going to be some big games. I think those, like the first 6 games, it's important to come out really quick, come out 4-2, 5-1 would be even better. And then those final 5 games are going to be, you hope it's the final 4 games because you hope that week 18 against the Giants means nothing and we play the all-hour backups like we did last season in week 18.
Strong out there, yep. Get people excited for him in the playoffs.
Well, maybe. But that's like those last 5 games are huge. The first 6 and the last 5 are massive. There's a lot in between. But those games are probably going to be where we look back and see the difference. If we come out below 500 after the first 6 games, we sit back there and we sit back at the end of the season and we say, wow, we really needed to come out with some of those games. And in those final 5 games, if we're not coming out like 4-1 or 3-2, there's a good chance we end up losing the NFC East. And there's some teams there that I don't necessarily believe that if you come out 9-8 out of the NFC East, that you're making the playoffs as a wild card team. So I think it's vitally important that, those two, the one sandwiched in the middle there, the meat of the season. Yeah, there's some important games there. I understand that. But those first 6 and those last 5 are extremely important games, especially the way it's laid out and the way it's positioned for Philadelphia. And that Christmas Eve game is going to be awesome. 100%.
So Connor, like you were just saying, you don't know if the Eagles, if they go 9-8. I'm just thinking of the teams off the Green Bay is probably going to win the North, and maybe Minnesota makes a potential playoff run. Tampa wins the South. New Orleans potential play. I think New Orleans is the second best team in that division. I don't think Atlanta and Carolina are going to be any good. Out west, the defending Super Bowl champ Rams, San Francisco, who went to the NFC Championship game, Arizona, who always starts off good, but I don't know if it happened in college to Cliff Kingsbury too. They would start off good, and then the second half of the year they just imploded. Who knows what could happen with them? So like that's 6 teams, 7 teams right there before getting to the NFC East, when it's going to be probably the Dallas and the Eagles. And then we got Quentin Moore says the Eagles will be 10-7 with losses to Minnesota, Arizona, Dallas, Indianapolis, Green Bay, Tennessee, and Dallas. All the good. It feels like all the good teams we're going to lose to. Which
if Quentin Moore's 10-7 prediction is right and the losses are as he says, that's not good because that means we didn't see the improvement we wanted from Jalen Hurts because we lost to the teams we're suspected to lose to.
Exactly, 100%.
And then we got Allison Lombard says 12-5. That's I don't know. All right, so we're about to get
wishful thinking.
12-5. I would love it. Obviously, my goal for this year, I want a home playoff game. So you have to win the division. The Eagles, I think, have taken a step up. The Dallas probably has taken a little step back. Washington, I think, took a little step up, and the Giants took a little step up. As Chris has said this entire episode, for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's up to Jalen Hurts. We thought 2021 was the prove-it year for Jalen Hurts because then with the 3 first-round picks, the Eagles could potentially go for another quarterback. And they tried. They tried to get Russell. They tried to get Deshaun. If Rodgers would have listened, they would have went after him as well. They didn't. It's Jalen Hurts' show. 2022, Jalen Hurts has to prove that he's the guy. Mm-hmm. Quick straw poll between us 3. Connor, is Jalen Hurts the guy? Yes or no? Yes or no? I don't want an explanation. Yes or no?
The Hurts truthers are coming at you right now.
Yes.
So Connor says yes. Chris, is Jalen Hurts the guy?
No.
I got to break the tie now? I'm going to say no right now.
But is there I don't want to be called like a Jalen Hurts hater. I don't want to be called.
I love Jalen Hurts.
No. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to everybody else that's on social media because this is what happens. It's either all or nothing. That's how social media works.
That's true.
If you don't like Jalen Hurts, then you love Carson Wentz. I'm not that guy.
I love Carson Wentz and I love Jalen, but I think Carson's a better quarterback than Jalen. Jalen's a better leader. If we can combine them, it'd be the perfect quarterback. But we can't.
I think Jalen Hurts is a terrific backup quarterback. I think he's going to be a great spot-up quarterback. I think he's got a long career in the NFL for the foreseeable future. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about franchise quarterback, no. There's definitely more evidence and data to suggest no.
I agree with you. All right, Connor. Philadelphia Eagles. What is the Philadelphia Eagles record? Do they win the division? And if not, who wins it? So, a quick explanation.
I'm going 10-7. And I'm going, yes, we win the division, but very close. Like I said, like if we're
Dallas
11
will finish 10-7 as well.
I really think they're 10-7 or 9-8. Like I really think it's going to be like that again this year. And to me, if we're 11-6, we're super comfortable. We are very comfortable. If we come out of those first 6 games and we're 5-1, then 11-6 is 100% possible and within the realm of possibility. Anything else, 10-7 is definitely where it's going to end up being. I think those first 6 games are far more important than people are going to put on it because there's bigger games at the end of the schedule and in the middle of the schedule. But the start, there is a world where we can end up 6-0 in the first 6 games. We can go into the bye week 6-0. There's no way you're winning every other game after. But there is a world where you could see that they're 6-0 and 5-1 is within the realm of possibilities. If everything works the way, like the 14-3 people out there, the ones who think we're going to be 14-3, 15-2, these are the like 6-0 to start the season. 100%. That's what they're thinking. But like, otherwise, like, I just don't know. I just don't see it. Like, I love this team. I love the hype around them. This just feels like there's too much hype getting there again. The buildup is too much again. We're building up for disappointment. Really, we're the NFC least for a reason. We're not. We do have the 4 easiest schedules in the NFL based on strength of schedule from last season. But at the end of the day, this is not the division you sit there and you say, yeah, there's definitely going to be a 14-3, a 13-4, and a 12-5. No. We're not that division. We didn't get this nickname because we're that good. We got the nickname because we're just that bad and mediocre of a division, and none of the teams can get out of their own damn way. I think 10-7 is a very realistic expectation. And when I look at that schedule, I can find 10 wins. I cannot find 12 and 13 and 14 wins in that schedule.
All right, Chris, what's the Eagles' record, and do they win the division? If not, who wins the division?
I think you're spot on, Connor. I cannot agree any more than what you just said. Like, I look at 10 wins. That sounds really sexy to me right now. I think the schedule really lines up well for them. It's one of the easiest schedules in the league. We've seen the Eagles last year take care of business against bad teams, mediocre teams. If that continues until next year and Jalen Hurts has a couple games or two against good defenses, we'll see where the chips lay. But the truth is, it boils down to 2 questions for the Eagles. It's a passing league. Can you be able to beat good defenses with your arm? Can Jalen Hurts take that next step and in his development and throw the ball at a high level? On the other side of the ball is the NFL is a mismatch league. We've seen the Eagles linebackers get exposed and exposed and exposed in the past, and there was nothing they could do to expose that weakness. Can the Eagles secondary, I'm talking about the secondary, overcome and not be like Nate Gary level bad in 2022? That's where we're at right now with no other further moves. And you look at the Cowboys. Obviously, that's like the biggest threat in the NFC East right now. They've clearly taken a step back. They're kind of in this weird spot. They've lost Amari Cooper, who was traded to the Browns. They've lost La'el Collins to the Bengals. They've lost Randy Gregory to the Broncos. Michael Gallup is back, but he's still recovering from a torn ACL. Zeke is kind of on the tailor end of his career. Tony Pollard is a really nice back. So they've got guys there, but the Cowboys also have offensive line concerns. I like their addition of Tyler Smith, who is an absolute freak of an athlete. That was a really good selection. But I do think it is very likely that the Dallas Cowboys take a step back this year. And I think it's anybody's division. The division's up for grabs.
Agreed.
That makes sense. So for me, 10 wins for the Eagles, and I think it's going to be right neck and neck with the Cowboys.
I agree. And a couple of the comments, Hurts has 0 excuses this year. 100% true. Hurts has, that was from Allison Lombard. This one from Dizzle Drizzle. Hurts has to throw for over 4,000 yards and a playoff win. Adding the division winners also gets the contract for the next 4 years. Howie will then go all in defense and offense. And the defense definitely upgraded this year, which can only help Hurts improve more possessions. They improved, but they're also really bad in the secondary right now. And that's what we need to see. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. The Eagles have to improve the secondary. You need a CB2. You need another safety. I get getting pressure on the quarterback will help the secondary, but you still need a body there. Take Allen is probably the leader in the clubhouse right now, but as Connor and I always say, they have more quantity over quality. I agree. The Eagles are probably going to go 10-7. Dallas will be right there at 10-7. Washington will be better. They'll be 8-9, 9-8, because I think they got a better quarterback who I think will stay healthy this year, and their defense is still really good. Like, especially that defensive line, when Chase Young gets back, healthy, their defensive line will still get after people. And the Giants, they're going to be better coached this year. I don't think Daniel Jones is any good. So they'll probably be a 5 or 6 win team. But it'll come down to the Eagles and the Cowboys. Both teams probably around that 9-8, 10-7, 11-6 range. The Eagles have to find a way to split with Dallas, though. They can't get swept again. You have to be able to win one of those games. I know we had a question earlier in this from Dave. What one game would you guys each choose that you're most interested in seeing as of right now? And I'm going to go with you guys. You guys both picked that Dallas game on Christmas Eve. I'm going to agree with you because that game, the Eagles have to win the one in Philly. Because even though Dallas fans are awful and they don't really show up to games, there'll be a lot of Eagles fans at that game. Going to Dallas on a holiday, they might be checked out. And not because they're having a bad season, but it's a holiday. Even if it's Dallas, you shouldn't be checked out. But still, being Christmas Eve, you want to get the game over with, get home to your family the next day for Christmas. So we'll see. We'll see, but I think 10-7. As Dizzle says, we were average in the secondary last year with Nelson and McLeod. They're above average.
It was amazing.
McLeod is better than Anthony Harris.
Yes.
I would have brought McLeod. I would have brought McLeod back instead of Anthony Harris.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Nelson was all right. He was the second corner. He didn't do anything to kill you, but he made one play all year, and that was the interception against Carolina. I think that helped seal that game. I know Slay is that number one guy that's going to make those big plays on the other side, but I would like to have a second corner that can make more than one play a year. I don't think that's too much to ask for, do you?
Asking for a secondary to make multiple plays in a year seems like a stretch in Philadelphia for some reason.
As we talked about,
the worst in the NFL in defensive takeaways, right?
They're always they seem, even with Jim Schwartz, they seem to be one of the worst in takeaways in life. And the one thing the Eagles, we know the Eagles defense usually does is get after the quarterback. They were 31st in the league last year, I think, with 29 sacks. That can't happen. They have to be in the 40s and 50s. It's going to start up front for the Eagles on defense.
I talked about that during Party on Broad last week. Was you look at the weaknesses of the secondary. The Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham has to stay healthy. All those guys have to get to the quarterback. They have to be at least top 15 in the NFL this year if they want any chance, because we all know it. You go up, the Eagles against a good quarterback, they get torched. Mm-hmm. Absolutely torched.
Eaten alive.
They have to, that defensive line has to come through. Has to come through. That's probably arguably a top 3 storyline of this year. If that defensive line doesn't come through, then forget it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And look, if we sign Bradberry, that's great. I don't think any of the three of us think he's going to come here. I just don't, unless the price comes way down. Oh God, Barnett. You didn't even bring up Derek Barnett. I can't believe he came back. That's
I'd rather not talk.
Yeah, I know. If the Eagles sign Bradberry, great. We all want Bradberry to come to Philadelphia. We don't know if Howie's going to give out the money, and he's probably going to get more money from elsewhere. But if Howie holds out, and the price tag for Bradberry comes down and he signs him, great. He's better than Nelson. He'll be a great number 2. With Avonte Maddox, I'm fine with the secondary. But until Bradberry signs, if he does sign in Philly, we don't have him yet. And that's why I say, like, we didn't get Nelson until training camp last year. They traded for Ronald Darby in training camp in 2017. It's going to take time. We all want it to happen now. It's not going to happen now. So,
agreed.
How many penalties will Barnett have this year? At least 3 or 4 roughing the passer calls on 3rd and long. Very true. And a taunting penalty, maybe.
On the bright side, he was brought in as more of like a rotational defensive end. So we should expect not double digits. But if he gets the double digits in a rotational role, that is wild.
It's Derek Barnett. I wouldn't put it past him.
But yeah, I agree with that one. Quick rapid fire before we wrap things up. The ESPN Pigskin win totals game. I saw this on Instagram. I wanted to play with you guys super quick for the NFC East only, as we spent a lot more time at the beginning of the show talking about things that weren't the schedule than what we wanted, but we'll quickly run through these. Over or under, no need for reasoning, just the over under. The Giants, 7 wins. Chris, over under.
Going under. Definitely.
And you're going under too?
Yeah, I'm going under for the 7 for the Giants.
Easy under for me. Dable, I think is pronounced.
Yeah, Brian Dable.
Yep, Brian Dable.
First year head coach. I think, Daniel Jones, obviously a major question mark. Can Saquon stay healthy? Definitely under.
Agreed. I'm taking the under there. The Washington Commanders at 7.5. LJ, over under.
I'm going over.
What about you, Chris?
I was going under. I was going over as well. I said slight over on my notes because I do think Carson Wentz is going to be a little bit more consistent for the Commanders. So it's like 8 seems like a really good number for them.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. I'm going over because I think it's going to be 8. If it was 8, I'd say like if they were 8.5, it'd be under 100%. The Philadelphia Eagles 9 over under. I think we're all over, correct?
100%.
9 is such a good number for them.
9 is a great number.
It's going to be 9 or 10. I'm surprised they don't have it at a half, like either 8.5 or
9.5. Really make you put.
Oh my god!
Really
if it was at 9.5, I wouldn't be able to bet that one.
The Dallas Cowboys 10.5. I'm going under. What about you, LJ?
Under 10 wins.
What about you, Chris?
Under. I think this. Did we just sweep this? Like, are we all in agreement with this?
Which means we're all wrong, by the way. The Commanders are winning the division. The Giants are finishing in second, and the Eagles and Cowboys are playing out the string at the end. That's what's probably going to happen now.
That's so funny. Yeah, I think the Cowboys. Although I will say, I think Parsons could be like Defensive Player of the Year this year, but I don't think that's enough.
I think the Cowboys are doing him a disservice. He needs to rush the quarterback. They're having him play linebacker strictly. He can win Defensive Player of the Year, but if they had him rushing the quarterback, he would easily win Defensive Player of the Year.
He feels like, I understand people are saying, the Hassan Reddick and Parsons comp isn't right because it's different. Based on usage, like that first year, Parsons wasn't in coverage as much as Hassan Reddick that first year where Hassan Reddick was completely exposed.
15.
But, geez.
I'm sorry, Connor. I didn't mean to.
But, like, to me, I agree with you. Reddick is at his best rushing the quarterback. Parsons is at his best rushing the quarterback. They can be off-ball linebackers, but you have to be off-ball. These guys aren't coverage linebackers. So whereas people say, they're not the same, the situation is very eerily similar, and I don't like it, especially the fact that they have Hassan Reddick scheduled to be an outside linebacker right now. I don't like that. I don't want that. I don't like that because that was where he was exposed and forced to basically move on from the team he was with.
Yeah, but I mean, Hassan Reddick kind of spilled the beans this week in one of his interviews saying they have a new room. They have the defensive line room or DN room. They have a linebacker room. Now they have a new DN O linebacker room. So he's going there. This is why I think they're going to go to a 3-4. He's going to be the outside rushing linebacker. So, I mean, if he drops back in coverage at all, Gannon needs to be fired. We saw how he struggled with that he struggled with that in his early years in Arizona. The last 2 years, his last year in Arizona, and last year with Carolina, He's better rushing the passer. That's what he should be doing.
I love it. I absolutely agree. But LJ, do you want to take us out?
Yeah. Chris, thank you. Let all our listeners know where they can find you and promote yourself. Take some time to promote yourself.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Party on Broad is my Eagles Sixers show. Tuesday night, we are doing a show with a Cowboys YouTuber. His name's Sean. He's from Blogging the Boys. We're doing a preview into enemies territory with the Cowboys. It's going to be really interesting. I'm sure that's going to be totally respectful. And
there will be no fights. There'll be no arguments.
Not at all. So that's our first of like previewing the NFC East. Then we've got a roundtable starting as well on Tuesday night, just breaking, just us talking the latest news about the Philadelphia Eagles, just talking about anything. There's no real structure here. It's just kind of just a hangout type of thing. So that's basically it. I just lost in my movie draft, and I'm really, really upset. I was this close to getting to the championship. We do fantasy football / movie drafts, and I lost.
What was the criteria for that? Like, is there? I know we're not that we don't have to like go too long. Was there like different genres that you had to pick? Or?
Yeah. So I do an entertainment podcast, and we did a fantasy movie genre. We just concluded season 1. Season 2 started a few days ago. And I almost made it to the championship round, and this was fantasy movies. So it's like 10 teams live pick their 6 of their favorite fantasy movies of all time, and Twitter votes who has the best team. I thought my team was the better team, but I lost by 1 vote of 169 votes to get into the championship. I literally lost by 1 vote, man. So I'm a little down.
84, wow.
Nuts. Absolutely nuts. But that's the Suit Up Geeks. They're a ton of fun. My other co-host, short story, Connor, is from Toronto. So there's that. But anyway, thanks for having me join, man. It was a ton of fun.
Definitely was. So follow Chris at Mr. Crockpot. You can follow Connor at Connor10. Follow me at LJ Harrell 54. And follow the Kelly Green Hour at Kelly Green Hour. Connor does a great job during, especially like during game when we're in the season, keeping the Twitter feed going. And with camp, coming up, it's gonna be a lot for us to preview and get set. Thank you again, Chris, for coming on. For Connor, for Chris, I'm LJ. Thank you for listening to the Kelly Green Hour.
You want Philly?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sanders patiently running. Sanders good cut and another block. Sanders still going inside the 40.